Hey, Anton.
Yeah, Margaret?
You know what people don't talk about enough?
What?
August's trauma. Welcome to People Don't Talk About Young Royals. I'm Margaret. My pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Anton. My pronouns are he, they.
And we're people here to discuss the show our friends are sick of hearing us talk about.
If that sounds like you, stick around. If your friend sent you this podcast out of a desperate attempt to get you to watch Young Royals, take this as a sign.
Go watch Young Royals, then come back to this podcast.
Margaret, what are we talking about today?
Today we will be having a character discussion of August in Season 1, Episode 3, having decided, as we say on this podcast, to assassinate him.
Woo-hoo.
I fucked that up, but we got the general idea. It's fine.
It's all the words. Just, yeah. In this discussion, we won't be summarizing the plot of the episode because we already did that. If you need or want a refresher, head back 7 episodes in our feed for our most recent This Week in Hillerska for a full breakdown. This episode discussion will likely be all over the place, so strap in. You have been warned.
Okie cloaky artichokey.
Let's get into trauma.
Trauma. Okay.
Said like Jamie Lee Curtis, because that's the meme I know. There's a bunch of memes going around. It's memes I've picked up from watching reaction videos of like there's a bunch of videos from press tours by American actress Jamie Lee Curtis, where she says she can't pronounce the word trauma. She says trauma. Anyways, you were saying.
So we learn about August's. So I guess the aspect of August's trauma that I want us to really acknowledge here is when his mom is saying, like, you have access to money, you're choosing not to mobilize it because that's all coming from what his father had left him when his father died.
Yeah.
And so for him, I feel like honor and nobility and that kind of stuff is really important. And so he doesn't want to liquidate his father's assets. However, he is remarkably broke.
Yeah.
And he's like really holding on to what his father left him, which is understandable. And I don't want to get into a like, does him being an asshole, does his trauma cancel that out? I don't really want to get into that discussion because that feels like a much larger discussion than a podcast.
Yeah.
But he does carry this life experience.
Right. Like, I think it's hard sometimes on August episodes to not kind of start getting seriously philosophical about the nature of assholishness or who can really be called evil, etc. I mean, like in my opinion, pure evil villains have their place, but like August is interesting because he has trauma in a lot of ways. Like August would be way flatter, and I think would do way less for the plot if we didn't know his backstory or if he had no backstory. Yeah. But I mean, to your point, like I have in my notes, with short sentences, one word per sentence, he has a way out.
He does, and he's choosing not to take it, and that is a conscious choice that he's making. I can understand why he does, like why he's holding on to it, because it's important to him. His dad was important to him, but he does have a way out. Yeah,
and I forgot a few lines when I was rewatching, and then I mean. It all came back to me by the time I actually watched through the entire episode again. But like there was a brief moment where I was rewatching where I considered something that I never really thought about, and I still hadn't really thought about it, even though I was definitely wrong, because I was like, wait, does August know about the bankruptcy before Parents' Day? I always assumed he did because of that conversation with the headmistress. But like, there is a world in which you just cover on instinct, and you figure out the answer later.
Right.
Like, and I'm not retconning and saying, oh yeah, he didn't know, because I think he, to some extent he did, but something that I had never really sat with before is the line that he opens his argument with his mom with, which is, you said you were going to fix this.
Yeah.
And I could totally see, even though it's not true that he didn't know, I can see him holding on to that hope that really puts into like the picture for me, like his entire behavior towards his parents that I feel like we're like really scratching our heads about previously. But I totally get now if until his mom is like, no, we're for real broke. Like, we're for real.
Yeah, like there isn't a fixable solution here.
Yeah, like we're out of options. Like, this is what's happening.
Can you imagine August at public school?
Taking a moment to imagine.
Really sit in that thought for a second.
There's so little school left too. Just, oh my god.
Goes to Maryburg. That'd be so funny. God damn.
But like, we called him August the Clueless.
We did.
And so it's like, if he didn't see the writing on the wall with other things happening in his life, you can see him being, I think probably more accurately, it's to say he was in denial of how bad it could be. But for this time around, we decided to call him August the Delusional.
Yeah.
And I think it's clear why, but to like, I guess, spell it out, like we're in a situation where after August has halfway through the episode, like he's been then now confronted with the facts. And then just kind of persists in the sense that like his life can still be normal. Like he knows it can't be.
Yeah.
But like we realize in this episode all the way up till now, through now, he has been like just lying to himself and to other people, because it's like, even if he didn't know that it was actually that serious, that like that was no way of getting around it, like he is still choosing to delude himself and live in this idea that he can just keep going business as usual and nothing's wrong. Which is why the line to Simon of, I forgot it last week too. Don't
spend money you don't have. That one?
Yes. Don't spend money you don't have. I have
that
to.
Might be a paraphrase, but
no. I mean, according to the subtitles, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And shout out Brittany from Gaywatch. I have to shout out.
Take a shot.
This moment where she was like, I've seen a lot of moments of a character saying something to someone that they should be saying in a mirror, but that might be the best example of it, or something along. I think that's what she says. Like, and I mean, it's so dripping with irony, and we don't even know his family's bankrupt yet. But in retrospect, but you have hints, and like reactors have definitely guessed it before that comes up. Like,
it's just not been spelled out in so many words,
right? Like, we at least know up to this point that like his tuition hasn't been paid. And so you're like, okay.
And I mean, Anton, think back to about 6 months ago when we were in school still. Yeah. At least schools in America, they're not shy when they're asking you for your tuition money. They're sending you letters and emails on the reg, so you don't just forget to pay your tuition.
Yeah. Yeah. My first notes for August in this episode were just my immediate thoughts were cornered, desperate, a little pathetic.
Yeah.
And it's like, that is the one way that I see. I didn't mention this in Simon's episode because it felt like it was taking away from the standing a little bit, but like it's the one way I see Rosh's point.
Mm-hmm.
In that, like, we called Simon the Lost last week, but like Simon is like we could also call this August the Lost, you know, in like very easily.
Yeah, for sure.
And like they both see a situation where they don't have any options other than to behave the way they're behaving.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that as a viewer you can see, but like Rosh can't, and so like that's why I'm like I start at least getting how she could get there, is like we like no one but August and his mom and potentially a stepdad know about the assets that he could liquidate or like could think that through.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing I keep talking about of like we don't it's like you're no better than him doesn't taking into account the difference in circumstances. That's what I mean. is like
I think a lot of the reason. Yeah, no, go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, I legitimately don't see a way that Simon gets out of this well, and I can see many solutions for August.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the main difference. I think the reason why we can assassinate August while we stand Simon is because August has an option. He's just so consciously choosing not to take it. And he's a massive D-bag. But he has an option. He's not taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be because he's, trying to hold on to his dad's legacy? Maybe that's valid. But
yeah,
it's still an option.
Yeah, I think that I want to still hold space for, as you said in the cold open, his trauma.
Absolutely.
Which means I do want to sit for a moment, like with the excellent acting by Malta in his argument with his argument with his mom, because we got his backstory last time, but now it's fully fleshed out in this episode. By last time I mean last episode. And you're just like a 16-year-old boy. His father, I mean, I already knew I was going to put a trigger warning in this episode. He commits suicide, and whatever the circumstances that led him there, there is so much that is going to be running through a 16-year-old's head when that happens.
Absolutely.
And there are ways in which it's like, August was sent to Hillerska after his father died. Totally different circumstances. But there's a part of me that like emotionally, could that feel similarly to Villa being sent to Hillerska?
I could see that. Yeah. In both circumstances, something big happened, something traumatic happened.
Mm-hmm.
In both circumstances, they were then sent away to boarding school in a very literal sense.
Yeah.
I
don't on mainline episodes I try not to bring in other media, but my brain, I recently saw Saltburn, not to expose my rewatching recommendations, but like this is Young Royals podcast. It's like it's like someone's pretty intense, but so is Young Royals. There is a line in there by a random character we only see like once, where she's like, the great thing about boarding school is you only see like the little brats 3 weeks out of the year.
Damn.
And so, like, that really kind of did put in perspective for me a little bit. Like, when you're rich, you have that, when you're a rich parent specifically, like, you have that option to, like, give your children an environment that they can deal with their shit with adults who maybe, I mean, at the best, like, in the best thinking, I was like, oh, they'll be with adults that, like, are more emotionally equipped to handle this because I, aka Louise, his mom, is like, I'm like too emotionally distraught to also deal with a grieving child. But then at the same time, it's like, I can't deal. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what do I really mean to my mother? What did my dad really mean to her if within 2 years she is remarried?
Mm-hmm.
What is this relationship with a person who, in my like darkest time, probably like the worst time of my life, just sent me to a like brand new environment that,
mm-hmm.
I mean, August does seem to really fit at Hillerska.
Yeah.
But the longer and longer I think on his backstory, the more I wonder like how much of that is survival techniques. Mm-hmm. Like, was he as overwhelmed as Villa was? To some extent. But like adapting and like just fitting in, probably with the guidance of his second cousin, the Crown Prince of Sweden. Like, is that the way that he found purpose after what would inevitably be a like yawning enormous hole?
Yeah.
That would be left by that tragic and sudden loss of a parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, like, I then therefore can then backtrack and see how Eric can defend August to Wilhelm in episode 2. Because he sat with a 16-year-old who was grieving the loss of his father.
Yep.
And was and took him under his wing and like tried to like figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as like you can read selfish intentions into basically everything Wilhelm does. Into basically everything August does with Wilhelm. I've brought this up before. Like, you can't. At least I can't help but see the ways that mirrors the ways that Eric probably helped August.
For sure.
And I can see a world in which August can convince himself he is helping.
Mm-hmm.
And he is giving Wilhelm the support that he needs, that August thinks he needs, in order to get through a rough time. And I don't think August like probably equates their situations,
right,
like consciously in any way like that. But it's like, at the very least, I do get him feeling like he owes Eric, and feeling like the status that he was taught to revel in, I think, by the way he adapted at Hillerska, means that feeling that slipping away in the back of his mind, as much as he doesn't want to think about it, he is going to hang on to the meaning that he has found in this place.
For sure.
With everything he has.
Yeah.
And so, we said last episode, we totally get Simon's perspective, but like, we can also understand, like, August has a serious emotional attachment to Ornas. like, he has been taught to value status probably before coming to Hillerska, and now, but like, especially based on like his mom's different opinion, he probably really learned it at Hillerska.
Yeah.
And you can get why sacrificing any part of that would be unthinkable, but you also get why that is a ridiculous statement.
Yeah.
Oozing with privilege.
Right.
Because what are you talking about? I have no money. My family is broke. I have nothing left. At least that's how it's translated in the English subtitles.
Yeah.
That first statement is technically correct. The second statement, technically correct. Saying you have nothing left
is incorrect.
Not true, but it is emotionally true because it's nothing he would be willing to part with.
Yeah.
So it's functionally the same to him.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like I haven't stated outright enough on this podcast, I think, is that like, as much as we can see the difference between just sell the fucking land and or art to get money and pay your fucking tuition, like, that's a level of fundamental change to August's sense of self and his sense of self-worth that he is not ready to do.
Yeah. And
we can understand that, but also still calling him an asshole.
Yeah. That's the duality of man.
It's the duality of man. I guess, any more little gripes with August?
No, we pretty much covered them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nothing else you want to get off your chest? We're probably going to talk about it a bit in Privilege Punishment and also probably Purple and Orange, but like, that's our last deep dive.
No.
Okay. Alrighty. Here we go. My attempt at a conclusion. August continues to be an annoying menace, but now he's a menace with a full backstory.
Yeah.
His active decision to refuse the option that would solve all of his immediate problems out of a sense of pride and other stuff that I wasn't being as fair with him in this conclusion as I was in this episode, but it's mostly pride.
Mm-hmm.
But that pride tied to a sense of self-worth is both so on brand and entirely insufferable.
Yeah.
Like, I can get it and still be mad. And that is what Young Royals has taught me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Alrighty. Are you ready?
I am. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to keep up to date with when we release new episodes and other pod-related announcements, you can check out our Instagram at People Don't Talk About. Our next episode will be Fleece.
It'll be a character complicated for Fleece.
And with that, all that's left to say is, let's start a revolution.
Start a revolution, baby.